Peace, family. Assalamu alaikum. We back in the lab for another quick installment. I really just had to. This is something I think has really been on my mind for a while, and hopefully I could just get it out. You know what I mean? And maybe I might come back to it, do a full episode on something like this. But I really feel like this is an important topic for me to discuss because I think as a sports fan, I mean, it's synonymous with sports. I mean, I guess statistics in general are important in life, but in sports, statistics are a very, very, very integral part of enjoying the sports experience. You know what I mean? Even for casual fans. So I will go ahead and start with the fact that, obviously, get the obvious point out of the way. Stats are important. Stats are important because it helps kind of tell the story of a game, or, you know, I was going to say an inning or a quarter or a possession or anything like that. It just allows for you to be able to, once you've watched the game and enjoyed the game real time, it allows for you to go back and then get a more in-depth look at what you experience. You know what I mean? So I guess you can say the necessity for stats, I think is there. I think it is necessary. Like I said, it's a companion to watching a game, even in real time. You can go and you can check real time stats. So I definitely appreciate stats in general, and I appreciate analytics, and I'll touch back on that in a quick moment. So when we having conversation about like the GOAT or people that are great at a given time, you know what I mean? Or you're trying to just figure out who's the best or who's doing good, who's most improved, who's, you know what I'm saying, taking their game from one level to another. You use stats to tell those kind of stories. You know what I mean? And so without going too far in the GOAT conversation, one way that I use stats is because I don't think stats tell the full story. You might hear people out there say what they call like the eye test. You know what I mean? Like you watch something, you maybe begin to develop certain notions, and then you go back and you look at the stats, and that can begin to help build your case or support your perspective. So what I feel like when it comes to great players, your stats bear witness to the eye test. You know what I mean? Like the stats will let you know, okay, yeah, I was watching this, I felt like this, and it bears witness to what your eye test has told you. You know what I mean? But also, I would be cautious in that the saying goes, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Jay-Z, I believe, was the first person I've heard say that. I believe that numbers can lie, or they have the potentiality to lie or to deceive. You know what I mean? I feel like when it comes to lying is like an outright thing where a person be like, they shivering outside and it's cold, and a person like, oh, you cold? Nah, I'm not cold. You know what I mean? Like that feels like a lie. You know what I mean? To deceive, I feel like, is you're trying to be indirect. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like you're trying to be sneaky with it. You're trying to make it seem like you are like something is one way and it's really not. You know what I mean? Like that's what I feel like deception is. You know what I'm saying? The definition of a lie is an intentionally false statement. So like I said, you see the little kid, they got the cookie crumbs on the side of their mouth, you know what I'm saying? And then the mom or the parent goes to them and be like, well, Johnny, did you eat the cookies? And they're like, no, mom, I didn't. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like is lying. And so like I said, I feel like deception is a little bit deeper. You kind of have a certain type of intention when you're trying to deceive someone. So when I say numbers can lie, right, it says the definition of deceive is of a person cause someone to believe something that is not true, typically in order to gain some personal advantage. I'm going to read that one more time. of a person cause someone to believe something that is not true, to believe something is not true, typically in order to gain some personal advantage. So again, I think that bears witness to what I was saying. So with that being said, I feel like numbers have the potentiality to deceive. You know what I mean? A person can sit back and say, and I use this example a gazillion times. My bro loves to use this all the time as well. He likes to say, oh, Eli Manning led the league in interceptions 3 times. So you hear that, you be like, whoa, that doesn't sound good. You know what I mean? Then you go back and say, oh man, that Eli probably not a great quarterback. He probably wasn't even a good quarterback, let alone not great. You know what I'm saying? Like, you probably like, wow, this guy probably sucked. Stats require context. You have to be able to give the proper context in order to really get a full understanding of the stats being presented. You know what I mean? Because I would sit back and say a response to that would be, he has one of the highest playoff winning percentages amongst quarterbacks of all time. Or Eli Manning is one of only 5 players to have multiple Super Bowl MVPs. All 3 stats I gave were true, but it depends on what the goal of the conversation is or the narrative that we're going in, and it also depends on the context. So all I'm really just saying is that I want to augment or change that saying that numbers don't lie, and I just want to say that numbers have the potentiality to deceive, especially in the wrong hands. You know what I mean? So the catalyst for me talking about this subject really is the NBA finals are going on, and we're taking hard looks at different stats. And of course, we still live in the debate show era, Undisputed, First Take, and others. And one of the things that I hear a lot is the narrative using stats, like creating a narrative based on stats. And the person that I really feel is highly impacted by these types of conversation is Steph Curry. I will go ahead and be honest. I'm a pretty big fan of Steph Curry. You know what I mean? I don't stan anybody. I think I just stan the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, just to be like honest. But to stan, I feel like means even if a person is wrong or illogical, you still stand behind them. We're taught not to do that, and I don't do that. But I will be a fanatic, to use the full length of the word fan, only in the case of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But I'm a big fan of Steph Curry, and I appreciate his game. I appreciate his evolution. I appreciate his impact. And like, one of my favorite things about basketball is really 2 things. Watching a dunk is a great experience, but nothing is better to me in basketball, and this will be in my top things in sports period, than watching a swish. Watching a jump shot swish the net is a fantastic, like, I get all the dopamine reaction when I watch a swish, you know what I'm saying? So I'm a big fan of Steph Curry. One of the things that I don't like about Steph Curry detractors, I guess detractors is fair. I'm not trying to sit back and say people have this overarching plot to discredit Steph, but my perspective is, I will start with this. Steph is, generally speaking, unanimously accepted and respected as the best shooter of all time. Okay, cool. We understand that shooting the basketball, that's arguably the most important skill in the game. You know what I mean? As a quarterback, your most important skill be throwing the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, you could be mobile. Yeah, you could be smart. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you could be, you could have a big arm. But throwing the ball is the most important skill that a quarterback can have. So I feel like in basketball, shooting the ball is arguably the most important skill that you could have. So I feel like, as a player, if you're generally accepted as the greatest shooter of all time, I really feel like you don't really need to do too much else after that. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like your legacy is already like cemented. He has the most 3-point makes of all time, and etc. I could go down Steph Curry's numbers making threes like all day long. But that being said, he's also a 3-time NBA Finals champion. He's also a 2-time league MVP. And so I gotta see if I can pull it up real quick. But Steph Curry's finals numbers, his stats in the finals, are very good. You know what I mean? It's not like something that it's kind of like he just makes threes and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And you really can't say nothing else about him. But it's like Steph really impacts the NBA Finals in a very big way, in a way that I feel like people would not expect. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get his stats in a moment. His averages. Right. Okay. I think I have right here. Right now in the finals, he's averaging 25 points a game, almost 26, 25.5, 5 rebounds, 6.3 assists. And I believe his career final stats are a little bit higher than that. Okay, right. But that being said, his numbers in the finals are very good overall. So then now we're going to the other side of the ball. We're talking about offense. Now we're going to the other side of the ball when we're dealing with offense, or dealing with defense, excuse me. One of the things that I think kind of goes under the radar, I remember hearing Jay-Z say this before. I believe I heard it was either Game said this, that Jay-Z said, or Nipsey Hussle said this of what Jay-Z said. And he said, don't let them put you in a box, because once they're able to put you in a box, then I forget the rest of the quote, but it's kind of like, I'm going to paraphrase the rest, but it's like, once they put you in a box or able to categorize you, then that's when they can kind of like take away from you. You know what I mean? And so like what that really means is, for me in this particular context, is once you label Steph as like, okay, all right, yeah, he's a great shooter of the ball, you know what I mean? He don't really do nothing else. He can't really drive. He can't really shoot mid-range. And oh yeah, he really don't play defense. So once that becomes your perspective, it becomes hard for that to change in people's minds. And one of those contributing factors, I feel like, is with fans and supporters, and we'll call them stans, people that, you know what I mean, over-exaggerate a person's success. So if you at work and you work with a whole bunch of Golden State fans, or you work with a whole bunch of Tom Brady fans or whatnot, back in the day for me it was Eagles fans. I grew up in Delaware. You're hearing people, oh man, Steph Curry, he did this, he made this many threes, he did this, and that. So naturally, I feel like in your mind you'd be like, this person's not all that great. Man, this person, he not. Then you watch the game and you're like, oh, he just missed a three. Oh, he just did this. He just had a turnover. You know what I mean? So you begin to kind of nitpick at what the person doesn't do well, because you've been hearing overwhelmingly so that this person is X, Y, and Z. His greatness is at this level, whatever the case may be. I think I understand that. You know what I mean? I respect that. But one of the things I think, or what begins to become a problem for me, or how it becomes a problem for me, is you got to be able to be open-minded to when the narrative has been broken, or the perspective has been broken or changed or evolved. And so I'm watching Steph last night on the defensive end. Also in game one. Steph impacts the game from a defensive perspective as well. Al Horford gets the ball in the post against Steph Curry. Now Draymond comes over and gives him help. You know what I mean? Then Al Horford continues to try to go to the basket. Then I forget who else came over. It might have been Wiggs, but I'm not exactly sure who else came over to help Steph. But then, so the other person gets tangled up with the ball with Al Horford. Then Steph floats back and essentially steals the ball, blocks the passing lane. And I was like, man, I was watching the game with my dad. I was like, man, did you see that? Like, that defensive sequence was amazing. You know what I mean? And so I'm watching the game, and it's different. I really think it's different when you're watching every minute of of the game. It gives you like a different type of perspective. But I'm like, man, Steph. So like Steph is working hard on defense, and you kind of see him like he's getting like tired a bit. He's like working hard on defense. Then it was like in the third quarter, then he starts making threes. So I'm like, man, he's really impacting the game on the defensive end. And you would think, man, okay, well, if a person is really busting their hump on one end, they can't really do it on the other end. And it's like, boom, he starts coming out and he opens up the game, making 3-point shots. So now I'm hearing people talking, I'm saying the day after the game, and people still don't give Steph the proper credit, aside from people on his team like Draymond, for playing great defense or being an impactful defensive player. So that kind of just brings me to my next point. Stats are important. Stats bear witness to greatness. But also on the other side of it, these other teams and players, they get paid to play and coach, as well as, you know what I'm saying, the players that you root for. So a great example of this is like Deion Sanders, Darrelle Revis, you know what I'm saying, Jalen Ramsey. Great cornerbacks don't get a lot of opposing targets. So if Deion is guarding Jerry or Deion is guarding, you know what I'm saying, I'm struggling to remember a whole lot of receivers' names off the top of my head, but if he's covering your best receiver, you're not going to be throwing the ball all day on Deion's side. Even if it's Jerry, even if it's T.O., even if it's Moss, even if it's, you know what I'm saying, whoever it is at the time. You're not going to be targeting Deion 10, 12, 15 times in the game. It's just not going down. Because you know the more times you look to throw the ball, and if you don't got a great player like the players that I mentioned, you're really not throwing it Deion's way. You know what I mean? So Deion might end the game with one tackle, you know what I'm saying, a deflection, and that'll be it for the game. So you might go back at the game like, oh, yo, Deion, he ain't do nothing the whole game. But we're not able to go and look at, the fact that this quarterback, he's terrified to throw it to Deion's side. In baseball, same thing. You got a great hitter, great home run hitter. He going to get a lot more walks than average. He's not going to be seeing a lot of great pitches on average. Because people are like, I'm not trying to get this person. I'm not, no sir. But also, like if you have a great running back, the defense is like, okay, bro, you got to beat us another way. You got to show us, okay, we're not going to let you get loose for no 125, 150 this game. Let's see if we can hold you to 70 yards this game, 75 yards. You got to beat us another way. So even if I'm averaging 100 yards a game, I'm averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry. Now, when I play against the Buffalo Bills, I got 55 yards. I'm averaging 3 yards a carry. I've still impacted the game. Because the defense has to focus on trying to take me away. So I've affected beyond the game. I've affected their week. I've affected everything about the defensive linemen the day before or the week leading up to it. The linebackers the week leading up to it. It's changing a person's whole game preparation. And so in the game, I'm impacting the game even if you're not able to pull up the stat sheet and look at it and say, oh, wow, okay, brother had 150 yards or brother had 10 catches out the backfield. He had 3 touchdowns, whatever the case may be. The stats might look poor, but I've really affected the game in a tangible way that you can't see on the stat sheet. So if you're watching the Golden State Warriors, Steph had 29 last night. He didn't play in the fourth quarter because, the game got broken open in the third. So you might look at the game and you say, okay, he had 29 points. I believe he had 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I might not be 100% accurate on that. On both rebounds and assists, he had between 3 and 5 each. And I know he had 3 steals. You might look at the game and be like, okay, He had a solid game, nothing really to write home about, which I would tend to agree with. But also you had to look at how Steph is affecting the game in a way that you can't see in the box score. How many defenders are closing out on him? You know what I'm saying? On a drive to the lane. How many? I've seen it like last night. Chef got a rebound or a steal, and he hit the outlet to Wiggs. Wiggs passed to Draymond. Draymond hits Looney for an easy bucket under the rim. Not Draymond. Wiggs hits Draymond. Draymond hits Kevon Looney for an easy bucket under the rim. So Steph gets the rebound, quick outlet pass, and that leads to the offense. You'll never see that on the stat sheet. But everything is revolving around Steph. So I'm not gonna belabor that point too heavy. I'm just want to emphasize the point of the double-sidedness of using statistics. When you're making a great case, when you're using it to make a point or to articulate your point, or using it to buttress your perspective or a hunch or a narrative that you're trying to create, is quality. But when it comes down to it, this is the most important thing I want to drive home. When we're now talking about greatest player of all time type conversations, legacy conversations, top 10 player all time conversations, when we're getting into the legacy post-career pantheon kind of dialogue, stats, again, that's great. Now there's going to be the counter to, you're like, all right, Steph can't beat us tonight. Clay can't beat us tonight. You know what I mean? You have to look at how a player is impacting the game. Impact is, I would say, venture to say, it's equally as important to what you do on the scoreboard. I mean, I'm a chef. I've worked in restaurants for, you know what I mean, over 15 years. I've experienced, and I know for a fact, how one individual's impact in the kitchen can really make the load easier for every other single person in the kitchen. So even if I'm not preparing the food directly, I'm not preparing the dish directly, but let's say I set up your station and everything's clean, your mise en place is nice and organized, your items are made to the proper spec, you got plates, you got everything set up for you, you know what I mean? And your service has been now made easier for you to execute. Having the food properly ordered for the restaurant, the proper expediter, getting the plates out in an orderly fashion, orchestrating the kitchen. These things are also as important to what you do specifically statistically. And I think when it's all said and done for Steph Curry, these are the things that we're going to really revel at, or we're going to really have a greater appreciation for when he's done playing. How he really made the experience for everybody else on his team, probably from the coaches on down. I'm pretty sure like Steve Kerr probably be like, man, when you have a player like Steph Curry on your team, it makes coaching a little bit easier. You know what I mean? So that's really my perspective when it comes to statistics for now. I really like it. I love hearing it again because I enjoy a good debate, but I hope that, and it's hard because you can't quantify impact. You can't put a number on impact, which I respect. And that's why it comes from that. That's why for me, as a fan, as an observer, the eye test comes first. And you can't quantify the eye test. And the eye test is a whole other bunch of things that come into it. You can say you could be biased or whatnot. That's cool. I want to highlight this real quick. Skip Bayless said, now, mind you, Steph had a 14-point third quarter, which again was the quarter where the lead ballooned. I believe it was north of 25. He said, Steph Curry he didn't score a point in the first 3 minutes of the third quarter. And he missed two 3-pointers. Now again, mind you, in a 14-point quarter, he had 29 points. So he had pretty much half of his overall point total in the third quarter. Didn't play the fourth. And he was the catalyst to opening up the game north of 25 points. But a person wants to pull these 2 moments out of that quarter and say, "Oh yeah, this is why I take away." This is where now the eye test or the things that you cannot specifically quantify. That's where it can become bias. So yeah, I'm going to pretty much wrap it up with that. I'm going to continue enjoying the finals, and man, I just appreciate all the support. Thank you, man. We back in the lab. We're going to be back very soon. I appreciate all the support. Assalamu alaikum.